We're very excited to share with you a new initiative that the Healy Center for ALS is launching. It's called the ALS MyMatch. And this is an early phase clinical trial program for ALS. This is the agenda for today. This webinar is designed for drug developers, pharma companies, or biotech companies who are interested in applying for ALS MyMatch. We are excited to also announce that there will be a community webinar for people living with ALS and families that we'll be announcing that webinar shortly. So participants, patients and families who are joining us for this webinar, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be announcing the community webinar shortly as well. This is a very exciting initiative, and this is born out of a matching challenge grant that the Healy Center for ALS received to start an early phase development program. And we are excited to launch this program. And in this webinar, I'd like to present some information about what is ALS MyMatch, what's the program overview, and what does the design and operational structure look like, and how to apply. There is an RFA that was announced last week, and we'll talk about the RFA and how to apply for this. And we'll have plenty of time for question and answers. So I want to start by saying that we're really in such an exciting era in ALS drug development. There are so many drug targets and known disease pathways and mechanistic biomarkers for these disease mechanisms that are defined. And we're in a position to run early phase clinical trials that are biomarker driven to understand target engagement, to understand the effect of some of these drugs and understand what their impact is on the disease biology. There is a need to systematically and really efficiently move these candidate drugs through the development process to get to that finish line, the FDA approval line. That's the finish line that we are most eager and excited to look forward to. And many of you are already familiar with another big initiative from the Healy Center for ALS, that's the Healy ALS platform trial, which is a later stage clinical efficacy testing trial, as you can see on this slide. And this Healy ALS platform trial has already demonstrated several efficiencies in experimental drug testing in ALS. What we're doing now is positioning the ALS MyMatch trial a bit earlier in the development before the ALS platform trial. And this is primarily for early phase testing like phase 1B or 2A type of clinical trials. And our vision and hope is to really build this infrastructure and run multiple drug testing trials in early phase through ALS MyMatch in a really efficient and fast way to get the answers that we need to get to before we transition to the next phase of testing in a large clinical efficacy trial. And that could be either through the Healy ALS platform trial, or it could also be a standalone independent clinical efficacy trial. I'd like to highlight what the current market size looks like for early phase testing in ALS. And this data is from March 2025. And this was pulled from the MedALS website that compiles data from multiple sources. There are currently over 100 investigational products in ALS that are either in early phase trials or they're entering early phase trials. So it's really important for us to think about how to test all these different drugs in a really efficient way so we can keep moving these investigational products along the drug development pipeline in a streamlined, fast, and efficient way to get to that finish line that we were talking about earlier. Now, we have to spend more time in the early phase trials because this is where we understand the target engagement. Are we using the right dose to move forward into the later phase clinical efficacy testing to understand pharmacokinetics? Is the drug entering the CNS tissue, crossing the blood-brain barrier, safety and tolerability before we embark on those later phase clinical trial efficacy trials. But when you have such a large number of drugs that are sort of entering the pipeline, it creates a bottleneck. There is a pipeline pressure that is created in this early phase development. And in the current scenario where you have a large number of investigational products, but there's also a really tight economic market and the R&D costs are high, the funding situation is tight, and we don't have an infrastructure to then systematically and test these drugs in a streamlined way and identify those target subpopulations of ALS early and engage and enroll in these trials, and to build sort of that repertoire of biomarkers that we can potentially potentially built into the infrastructure and then use them for various different drugs as well as the mechanism and target engagement testing in ALS. So keeping this in mind, what we hope to do with the ALS MyMatch trial is to really launch this as that infrastructure where we can answer some of those early phase questions. This is essentially the scientific scope of the trial. On the left, what you see are a variety of scientific questions that can be answered in the ALS MyMatch trial. Doesn't mean that we have to design a trial that answers all of these questions. And this could be tailored based off of the drug and the questions that drug developers may be most interested in learning at this phase of drug development before going into clinical efficacy. So we are mostly looking at target engagement, biological efficacy, dose finding, etc. ALS MyMatch is not for phase 1 healthy volunteer studies. It's also not a clinical efficacy trial, and that's important to keep in mind. So the idea of MyMatch, as the name suggests, it's really about matching participants, ALS individuals, to the right trial or trials based off of their eligibility biomarkers or genotype, etc. The overall infrastructure looks at using a common screening protocol, which can then be reused in case of a screen failure, really simplified it and have decentralized workflows that allows for screening visits to be integrated into clinic workflows in a way that really boosts enrollment and early engagement of patients into the MyMatch program, and which is really important for that fast and efficient testing and rapid recruitment and completion of the trials as well, in addition to the rapid startup of the trial. Our goal is to use top enrolling high volume sites for MyMatch program and to create a very patient-centric pathway for enrolling on a first come first serve basis. So speed and efficiency are going to be key for ALS MyMatch. And so these trials can be designed in a variety of different ways. There's a lot of flexibility in how a MyMatch trial can be designed. It could be designed as a randomized control trial or as an open label study, depending on what the scientific question is that we're asking. It could also be a 3-month-long study or a 6-month-long study. Most of these studies are meant to be really short duration, limited scientific scope sort of trials. It could be dose finding study where we may need more than 2 arms. We're looking at 2 different dosages. It could also be designed to enrich different trial cohorts based off of genotype or based off of certain biomarker eligibility at screening. Now, this is a sample schema of what a MyMatch trial might look like, but it doesn't have to exactly fit into this. There can be some variations within this schema. The idea is to build that efficient infrastructure where we can actually use templated schema, templated language, but also have flexibility to then tailor based off of what your needs are for drug development. So as you can see in the schema, there are a number of time points where biomarkers are collected and in-person visits or phone calls are built in, and it could be 3 months or 3 to 6 months long, depending on, again, what the scientific need is for the drug development. And a variety of investigational products may also enter the MyMatch program. It could be experimental drugs, or it could be repurposed drugs. It could be gene-targeted approaches that will all be sort of aligned within the scope of the MyMatch program. So our goal is to really empower patients, empower companies, empower sites to get the information and value that we're creating through the MyMatch program and get the answers in an efficient way, and then create the transition pathway for the next phase. And how do we build those efficiencies? There are a number of operational efficiencies in the ALS MyMatch. As I mentioned before, the program will use top sites that are high, really fast enrolling, high volume ALS sites, seasoned ALS clinical trial sites. We will be using a central infrastructure, including a central IRB. We have reliance agreements with the sites that are participating in MyMatch. Neil's central infrastructure will also be used, and the trial is designed in such a way that we are really thoughtfully thinking of what the outcome list is going to be. It's a curated list of outcomes, and the startup timelines and the speed for starting up these would sort of is built and tied into the templated protocols, templated ICFs, and templated electronic data capture systems, CRF forms, study plans, etc. That really helps us to then launch these trials as fast as possible. Time is critical, and time and efficiency are sort of our keywords for ALS MyMatch, and our goal is to reduce the time to startup. That includes a really short trial design period of 2 to 3 months. It depends on what the scientific question is, again, that we're asking in this trial. And having that registry or a common screening protocol also really shortens time to enrollment in a trial for patients from the time of referral from clinic into the trial. And that really sort of is meant to accelerate enrollment timelines across all the different sites. And trial budget is, these are meant to be small, small sample size, low cost clinical trials. And the trial budget really depends on the trial design itself, how many participants and what type of biomarkers and what the questions are that we are asking here. So what is the value we're creating for industry or drug developers? It's really about getting the right information through this early phase trial to then be ready for the next phase of development. And our goal is to also try to use the minimum necessary approach in terms of what is needed to get to answer the scientific question we're trying to ask, including the number of outcomes that we're collecting and the number of visits we need, and the trial treatment duration, etc. And at this point, at this stage in development of the drug, I think what we want to be thoughtful about is designing a trial that reduces the type 2 error, where we're not prematurely failing a drug because of the trial design itself. And then the value we are creating through the common screening protocol and the biomarkers that are tested, and reducing sort of those risk for, especially in early phase trials where there's a risk for high screen failure rates. This allows for really efficiently reusing the screening data in a common pool of participants in the common screening protocol. And all of these would create value to then get us the answers towards the end of the trial to then move forward into the next phase of testing. So what's the value we're creating for patients? I think time and again, time and reducing travel burden is really important for our ALS patients and community. And where the entire program is built in such a way to create workflows that are really patient-centric, allowing flexibility wherever possible, and even incorporating decentralized approaches or trying to build into and integrating within clinic workflows wherever possible in terms of screening other visits as well. And short referral to screening wait time is an important factor, it's an important feature that would allow us to then rapidly recruit across all the different sites. And as I mentioned before, the lean curated outcomes and integration into the clinic workflows, as well as allowing local safety labs to be collected, will reduce the number of visits that patients need to travel to sites for the purpose of study visits. Now, amidst all of this, what is really important for us is to run all these trials with really high scientific rigor. And there are a number of expert committees that will be guiding the design and the operations of the ALS MyMatch trial. That includes a therapy evaluation committee that will be vetting the applications that will come through the RFA to select the most promising drugs to enter into the MyMatch trial. And there's a design implementation leadership team. There are biomarker expert advisory panel who will be guiding us on biomarker selection for, there are two types of biomarkers we think about. One is what is drug specific or drug mechanism specific, and the other is about what is ALS specific. And this is a rapidly evolving field, and we want to keep abreast of what's happening in terms of what is the latest and the greatest biomarker for ALS. And the expert advisory panel will be guiding us all along in terms of what the right biomarkers are to incorporate into the trial. And most importantly, whatever we do at Healy Center for ALS, we are all about patient centricity, and patients and families and ALS individual families have always been a part of all of our initiatives and will be central to the MyMatch initiative as well. So we'll have steering committees that includes people with ALS, clinicians who are site investigators, or ALS clinicians, statisticians, as well as scientists. This is the therapy evaluation committee that will be reviewing applications that come through the RFA. And in addition to Dr. Sukovich, the a director for the Sean Healy Center for ALS at Mass General, and myself, we have a number of colleagues who are renowned in the ALS field and really leading experts in ALS preclinical as well as drug development. We're really honored to have all the experts on the therapy evaluation committee. And who are we at the NCRI? For folks who don't know about us, the MyMatch program is run out of MGH NCRI, and we have 30 years of clinical trial experience, and we are a full-service academic research organization. Dr. Sukovich founded the NCRI about 30 years ago, and our suite of services that we offer at NCRI includes clinical trial operations, as well as scientific expertise for designing studies, statistical support, and we really value our relationship with all the sites and clinicians across all the different sites. And we have a long track record of working with all of the ALS sites for many, many years, and would leverage all of those relationships for the MyMatch study. And we also would provide regulatory consultation as part of this program. So for folks who are interested in applying to the MyMatch program, there are some QR codes on this slide. Please feel free to take a picture of this. And there's an application form that you would need to fill out and a CDA as well. So the RFA went out last week, and we are collecting applications, and we'll be continuing to collect applications through May 16th. That is the deadline for companies or drug developers who are looking for partial funding support for their MyMatch trial. If there are companies or drug developers who do not require the partial funding support, this application deadline is not relevant. Please feel free to still send in your application, and we'll be reviewing these applications on a rolling basis after the initial call. So if you have additional questions, we're more than happy to talk to you and discuss the program and discuss your needs for drug development. Please feel free to reach out to me or Kristen Drake, who is the Executive Director at the Healy Center for ALS. We'll be more than happy to connect with you. So with that, I will pause and ask and open it up for questions. And let me take a look at the Q&A or chat if there are any initial questions. Don't see anything yet. Dr. Sukovich, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, no, thank you, Suma. No, we're really excited about this. While we're waiting for some questions, it's a real hole in the field. We see many companies with great ideas and drugs who can't raise the funds for whatever reason to do these phase 2A studies that are so important to pick the best drugs to go forward to phase 3. So we're excited about this. I see you have a couple questions now. Do you want me to read them to you?
Yes, so I can take that question.
Yeah, just to read them out loud so everybody sees them.
Yeah, so there's one question about number of patients and approximate cost. So these trials are meant to be small sample size trials. It really depends on what the scientific question is. It could be anywhere between 15 to 50 participants, but these are not meant to be 200 participant trials. And the cost really depends on what the trial design would look like. And we're happy to talk to you individually to look at what your needs are, and then design the study and give you an approximate cost for that. But and there are also other questions about when will the program start enrolling patients. So we are already in the process of launching the very first trial, and we are hoping to bring the first patient in as early as next month, actually. So we're very excited about that. And so stay tuned. There'll be more information about the upcoming trial, as well as the trials that will be stemming from the RFA that is out. So another question about first patient, first visit. And for the first trial, it would be hopefully May. And are there exceptions to consider a phase 1A? So, as I mentioned earlier in my talk, the only exception for a phase 1 trial is that this would primarily be for ALS individuals. We are not running phase 1 trials that are targeting healthy volunteers as part of the MyMatch. Biomarker analyses in CSF for NFL.
Maybe read the whole question, Suma, I think, in case people can't see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a question of biomarker analyses in CSF for NFL or others done along the way or all at the end. It again really depends on the trial design. If there is a requirement for certain biomarkers, biomarker results to be obtained at the start, at the time of eligibility or start trial entry, it could be tailored to that. Or if the design is such that all these biomarkers would be evaluated at the end of the trial, it could be tailored to that as well. But
I think what Suma is bringing up is that this is not a platform trial. So so every regimen doesn't have to be the same. As she said, it's really tailored to that particular drug and the biomarker question and safety question in a 2A space.
Exactly right. Yeah, and every trial is an independent trial, so there's no sharing of placebos like the platform trial, and every trial can have a slightly different design within the scope of the MyMatch and the broad schema that I showed earlier. Is there an anticipated maximum number of assets that might be evaluated in the program at any one time, and hence there might be a wait list for future compounds? That's an excellent question. That would be a good problem to have, and we're really hoping to launch this and scale up. And it's really about the ALS patient community and drug development, and how can we accelerate this? And we'd be thrilled to have multiple drugs be running at the same time. What are the requirements to use preferred vendors, labs, CROs, etc.? So the Healy Center for ALS and the NCRI, we have a list of vetted vendors that we have been working with for a number of our initiatives. So we're happy to work with those preferred vendors, but if there is a specialized vendor that a drug developer would like to work with, and we're open to that, and we're really open to be flexible. There's a lot of flexibility that's built into the program, and we can work with you on that. Is it possible to have an open label extension? It is possible, but we have to keep in mind that these are short duration, small sample size trials. It's certainly possible if you want to create a trial design where the randomized controlled trial portion is only for 3 months or less, and then another 3 months is for open label extension. If drug developers would like to have an extended treatment extension beyond that, we can always sort of think of creating a standalone additional trial where participants can transition into outside of the MyMatch trial itself. Given competition for patients, how do you manage potential competition between current studies enrolling similar populations? Yeah, so the scope and the goal of MyMatch is different from some of the late phase trials. Right now, there is an urgent need to develop drugs. There are 30,000 individuals living with ALS in the country. And what we know is that only 10% have an opportunity to be a part of trials, or they have access to trials. And we're hoping that with MyMatch, that number actually really increases. So in some ways, it means that we're less worried about the competition as such. I think we're really eager to provide more opportunities for ALS individuals to be a part of research, to be a part of clinical trials, and engage in trials as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll just add that I don't think that's a problem now. I wish it was, but there aren't that many trials going on. And even if we get, let's say we have 10 of them running, that's still not enough for all the people that would be eligible. And the nice thing is, while we're starting with, these top sites that are top enrolling sites, we're part of a network of 150 sites. So if we need to expand to other NEAL sites, we can do that too. And then there's other phenomenal sites too. So we can scale this quite well. And again, each study is going to be relatively small.
Thank you, Merit. In addition to fluid biomarkers, do you plan to include digital biomarkers such as SVC, actigraphy, or speech? Maybe I can start. Merit, would you like to?
Yeah, I think, again, because it's not a platform trial, it doesn't have to be all the same between the regimens. If a company came in and for their drug, that was going to be one of the important readouts for their phase 2A, we could add that. Breathing tends to be in every study. So, but as far as other digital apps, I think we're excited about that, and we'd work with the company on that.
Thank There's another question about thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your wonderful initiative. Would it be possible to use some of your statistical services ahead of the application regarding the protocol design, etc.? So I would encourage you to complete the application and send it to us, and then we can look at where you are in the drug development and what the needs are, and we can work with you on that. If the application does not require the partial funding support, and we are looking at the applications on a rolling basis. Again, we would work with you. There is a design phase, and once the drug is selected for the program, there's a design phase, and we'll work with you on statistical design as well as a trial design during that phase. Merit, would you like to add?
Yeah, no, I agree. The application is really on the science of your drug and are you ready for the phase 2A? It's not the design. That if then we would work with you on the design. You'd have access to the phenomenal biostatistician teams what we have.
Do we have to have obtained an IND clearance, or will you assist with that?
What we don't want to do is do a lot of work and then there's no IND. So we want therapies that either have an open IND or who will have all everything done so that they would be able to get an IND. And then in that case, absolutely, we would be working with you on getting the IND. But if someone comes in and they haven't done any of the chronic tox or you're not ready for it, this isn't the right study for you. This is really for companies ready to go into patients in phase 2A.
Thank you. Are methods for analyses of biomarkers established and available through the program? The answer is both yes and no. There are biomarkers that are already validated and available, but there may be biomarkers that drug companies or developers may be interested in discovering and then applying in the trial. And so it really depends on what we're looking at. Dr. Sukovich, would you like to add?
Yeah, no, I think there are some obvious ones that are out there, and we'll do those. But the field of biomarkers is moving very fast, and we're going to have this amazing kind of a group of biomarker experts advising us on. And as things come out that are really validated, we'll be adding them. But for many of the companies, it'll be very specific to their drug as well.
Is it possible to apply now for the trial to begin in 2026? Kristen, would you like to take that question?
Absolutely. I think for the first, 2 to 3 companies that we're planning to help fund with some partial funding, our hope is that those will be the ones that are ready to enter in 2025. But if we plan to sort of keep this program open, and we'll be continuing to review applications. So please, don't hesitate to apply now. Just note, I think on the application form, there is a specific question about your timeline, and you can just sort of fill that in there.
Thank you. These are all great questions, and this is just the start of the conversation. We are here. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We are almost reaching the end of the webinar, and we're excited about this initiative, and we hope that you're just as excited to learn about MyMatch as we are, and we hope to work with you on this program. Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to hearing from hopefully many of you.
Thank you.